Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another live session. We haven't had one of these in a very long time, but this moment is very fortuitous for us because we are going to be having a training session, which I'm sure most of you would have heard about. We will be having a training session on the single national curriculum and how to incorporate it into our teaching methodologies on Saturday at UMT. So just to clear the situation, clear the air with regards to what the SNC is and how one of its aspects, the digital aspect, is going to play a role in the coming years. We have with us Gouhar Pirzada. He's going to be one of our trainers for this training session. He is the CEO of STEP. We're very lucky to have him. He has a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in training. So please, sir, if you could give us a brief introduction of yourself.
Sure.
It's more lengthy than the one that I just gave.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for having me. I feel honored to be part of this platform. This is Gouhar Pirzada, and I studied in the UK. I did my 2 masters from there, and I was part of the largest educational awarding body in the UK, which is Pearson Edexcel. I worked as BTech team leader over there in the assessments part. Then I've been working in administrator as well with the learning board for several qualifications in GCs and GCSEs. In Pakistan, I've been working with this institute you mentioned, Institute of Art Design and Management, STEP. I am working as the CEO and a chairperson of STEP Skills Development Foundation from the last 10 years now.
Very impressive.
With that, I work as a trainer. I've been working with several international and national bodies, including NAPTEC, which is the federal level organizations, the government organization, Punjab TEFTA, I'm working as their trainer as well, and work with GIZ and a lot of other, and TUSDAC, Australia awards. I recently got a certificate. I'm now feel proud to be a certified trainer in Pakistan.
Congratulations.
I got it from Australia, and training has been my passion. I love talking to people. I love talking to educators specifically because education training is my main forte. So that's basically, I love to research as well. I contribute whatever I feel I can do. I contribute towards educational research, specifically in the curriculum side and in the training methodology side. So these are the 2 areas that I work.
Okay, that's lovely. That's absolutely lovely. And congratulations on now being a certified trainer in Pakistan. That's very well done. So touching on STEP, because I don't really, I'm not in the circle of training, so I haven't personally heard of STEP, but I'm sure it's very famous. So touching on STEP, what exactly does that organization do? Like, if you were to lay out its mission statement or its basic functions.
Basically, it was the institution was it was established in the year 2003. So it's been nearly 18, more than 18 years now. And the main thing that the organization does is basically promoting vocational qualifications. I remember in 2003 when we had choices to enter any specific segment in the education sector. We never had vocational education promoted at that level. So I believe we are, and few other institutes are the pioneers to promote vocational education. And by vocational education, we mean work-based education, education that enables learners to perform what they're learning at a school or a college. So that was the idea we started working with. And we were the only center of London board. We were the first one in Pakistan to start bringing the international education. So students who study with us are able to get qualifications that are recognized by the UK awarding bodies. They actually get UK awarding certificates and diplomas and degrees by not leaving Pakistan. So that's one of the, I would say, advantage that students have in STEP. Secondly, we are more in the art and design area. Initially it was fashion, textile, interior, graphic, media and such qualifications. But then we do offer business and management and these things. The main thing which STEP is working is to promote teachers training and to train teachers to develop the capacity of educators in the country. Me and my team, we all are working for the same area. So wherever it is required, mainly in the public sector, but we also work with the private sector as well. And the main goal we have is to train teachers as per the there's a term called 21st century learning skills, and I'm glad that last year only it was a training given to the whole team of Punjab TAP, that they've got more than 400 colleges, and 21st century learning skills is now the need of the hour. It is very unfortunate that our school, before this SNC, they had absolutely no idea what is this 21st century learning skills. They are the 4 C's in a very brief, if you want me to say. It's collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity.
Okay.
So these 4 C's have to be made part of all the teaching methodologies, whether you call it assessments or the way you teach or the curriculum you follow. So ideas like these are the ones that we usually work on. We recently incorporated another part in the training, which was Green TVET. And by Green TVET, we mean that environment and protection of environment has to be made part of the curriculum. It's not an extracurricular activity or something, which was highly appreciated. And I'm glad that now, this cascading thing is now going on. So we're training people, and they're further
training. It's like a domino effect. You train a group, and then that group goes out and spreads the methodologies that you have taught them. Excellent. So, with regards to the SNC, if you pretend that I'm a layman, you won't have to pretend very hard, I can tell you that much. Can you describe what it is? For the person who doesn't know a thing about it, can you tell us what the SNC is?
SNC is basically, it's an abbreviation of a single national curriculum, something that was only a dream, and something that people would always want to talk about. They would always want to put it in their agenda list, but nothing was actually practically happening. So political differences aside, but we must appreciate the government for the fact that they have kind of taken up a leap step now with regard to SNC, which would mean that everyone, whether in the public sector or in the private sector, and when we talk about the private sector, we have several areas, several segments in the private sector. You have schools leading to top class, you have schools who are highly, those private ones, they're very, very expensive ones, they have their own lead class. Then you have the schools in the middle. Then we have the madrasas. So basically, the whole idea is to have a single national curriculum. So schools will definitely have the opportunity and the liberty to design their own curriculums and the way they want to teach those. But the themes that the government has decided, we have to follow those themes. For instance, somebody who's in the grade 2, so all the grade 2 people, or from 1 to 3, would be required to study specific themes, which are standard, which are standardized, made standardized by the government. So, which I think is phenomenal. This is one thing that make me proud, at least, of being part of education system here, because before this we had such a polarized society, and I believe for any society to get that polarized, curriculum plays a vital role, because whatever you teach your kids, they would start acting like that, and that is why we had such a huge polarization, and people had so much of diversification in the very basic thinking approach that people could have. So I believe that's a milestone achieved, but it's half the step done. The full step would be done once we are able to fully incorporate the ideas, and the idea is absolutely brilliant. It is the implementation now which is required. Which is the basic essential thing, which will make the difference.
Okay, so coming to the fact, you mentioned earlier 21st century learning skills, I believe. So when you're talking about this decade and the previous decade, but this decade in particular for Pakistan, we've seen a lot of advancement for us in terms of the internet, in terms of how many people are now on some kind of online medium. So with regards to the SNC, the one aspect of the SNC, which is the digital aspect, can you tell us like what the landscape surrounding this aspect was, and basically how the SNC is going to change it, and like why it required
That's an excellent
the
question.
SNC.
I must say that's a very good question and very timely question. Why I believe it is timely is the fact that technology is there now. We cannot just close our eyes from this, and we all know that our kids are using technology. Every other child now has a mobile phone, or if they don't have, they use their parents' phone playing video games and all those things. It is how we use that, and a very good part of SNC, I would say, is that they have strongly encouraged to incorporate technology. The whole idea is to familiarize our kids, our children, with the educational aspect of technology. Up till now, our kids are only getting on hands with the entertainment part of it. In fact, I use the word edutainment now, which means that it's a combination of education and entertainment. And I would appreciate TKS over here, the knowledge school, because while we were making the curriculum, we made sure that technology was made part of it. Each and every lesson, for instance, has been given QR codes now, which would mean that if somebody is studying, for instance, furniture design, they would be doing it manually, they'll be reading it manually, they'll be learning it manually, but at the same time, they would have to watch videos on internet, and there are questions related to those videos. So it's making technology more of educational support to teachers, which I think is very, very important, and it's an essential aspect. If you look at the curriculum of countries like Singapore or even the Scandinavian ones, you will see a major reason why their kids are doing so well is because they've made technology part of the learning. It's not something that parents usually and our part of the world. It's like, okay, you've done it, you've studied, you've done your homework, now have the mobile and play a game. So we've taken it as an entertainment only, which is phenomenally incorrect, because technology is now, in fact, one point of view is education is part of technology. It's not technology which has to be made part of
education.
It is such a huge thing that we were forgetting.
That it just encapsulates everything.
Everything, absolutely everything. And with SNC, they have given special focus on how institutes, schools would have to make technology part of their curriculum. The whole idea is to develop a global citizenship from schools, where our students, once they graduate from a specific grade, they are able to compete with the world. So, it's gone are the days when we were thinking only that you know it, you learn it, you memorize it, वो रट्टा लगा के सारा, and then you are through. आज की दुनिया में people need skilled people need the graduates who have an up-to-date knowledge of the technology, and they are able to incorporate that in their learning. So I believe that's one major USP, I would say, advantage of the SNC.
Of the SNC.
Absolutely.
I seem to recall reading in I'm not sure, but it was on the internet, I think. And again, I was just having fun, but I learned something while using the internet. I believe there are a lot of not a lot of, but I believe that there are some schools that have now started incorporating coding as a subject for early years schooling, which is very which for me was somewhat mind blowing. But then when I thought about it, I thought, of course, it makes sense, because there's so many things that you do online, that you do using computers, that you need to have more than just a working knowledge on how to navigate Microsoft Windows.
That's very right. In fact, I totally agree with you. And just to add to what you said, it's people now think, educationists of 21st century, they believe that coding is just not an extra thing that schools would, or any computer thing that they would be doing. It's like teaching kids languages. You teach them English language, you teach them Urdu language, you teach them computer language. It is so important. So coding is certainly made part of curriculum at a very young age now. And we are not very, I won't say that we've left quite behind in that part. We can still catch up, and I think it's a timely thing to focus on that. The more you familiarize your students with IT, with computers, with the latest technologies, the more are the chances that we cover this gap quickly. So I believe that's a good thing by the government.
Okay, so once the SNC is fully implemented, once it's and I'm talking hypotheticals here and ideals here. I'm sure it's going to be quite a while before everything is perfect. But once it is, how do you envision the country being? Like, what kind of effect would the SNC have, particularly with regards to the digital aspect? How would the SNC change the landscape?
Again, a very good question. I would before I answer the question, I think we have to look into the transaction period. I mean, as you said that how do I see things when the SNC is fully incorporated? The incorporation is the key area. If I could explain in a very layman way,
please.
We're teaching. For instance, we have to teach somebody 2 + 2 is 4. Now that 4 is not going to get changed. The answer could be 2 + 2 is 4. The whole idea is the government through SNC is telling us that teach kids 2 plus 2 is 4. Now the whole idea is how do you actually apply that thing? How do you teach students? The teaching methodology is the basic thing. Unless we do not have trained teaching force, this whole idea is not going to give us the result that we are expecting. So basically, teaching methodologies have to be changed. The way you teach students has to be changed. It's giving them perspectives. Everything is multiple perspectives. I remember when I was a student in the UK, they used to teach us that you got to give me, like for example, if I've got a question, what is this? I'm being asked what is this? I have to answer this question without using the word chair. And I have to tell them that it's something that you can sit on, it costs this much, it's made of this furniture. These are all different perspectives. You start thinking in economist perspective, designer perspective, a carpenter's perspective. So basically giving them perspectives would be creating them to think beyond a normal way of thinking. And through technology, the question that you said, through technology and IT, you can compete with the world. Otherwise, manually trained people have now absolutely no worth. Very honestly, I'm saying, if I did my first master's in marketing, and when I applied in the UK, they expected me at that time that I theoretically knowing marketing is not sufficient unless you do not know the softwares related to marketing. And here to us waqt ki baat hai. Thinking of things today, you now need people who are graduates of marketing need to know social marketing. They need to understand what is SEOs. They need to understand what is digital marketing. So in every walk of life, in every profession, जो भी आपका काम हो, regardless of whatever you could be a medicine, it could be engineering, it could be healthcare, it could be education, any sector, designing, unless you do not know the IT part of it, unless you do not know the software, you are a redundant person. Honestly, that's a reality. And that is what is actually lagging us behind. That is what is the main cause of our young people not getting through to an international market and working globally. And for a country like Pakistan, we all know that how much these foreign remittances are important for us.
Absolutely.
So we should be actually more careful. We should be. It is more of a. It is not a choice basically for a country like Pakistan. It is a necessity. We have to train young workforce which is competent, accepted globally. They are working in the world and they're earning. That would mean earning for the country as well. So that is. I think it's not a choice. It was a mandatory thing that we have to incorporate technology.
Absolutely, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you. Touching on one thing that you just said, which I found very interesting, about how you were talking about how to describe a chair without actually using the word chair. And then you start looking at it from an economist's perspective, that it costs this much, or that it's a resource, or you look at it from a designer's perspective, it has 4 legs, or even from a gymnast's perspective, it's something that you sit on when you're tired. Yeah. And this is really fascinating to me because it brought to my mind what I was reading actually about the education system in Finland. Where in early years schooling, I was reading that they don't actually have set classes like, oh, this is your maths class, this is your English class, this is your Finnish class, this is your geography class. What they deal with are teams. So for example, they'll have a team on rain. Then they'll go into the linguistical English side of rain, and they'll talk about how geography plays a role or rain plays a role in geography, and then they'll go on to like this through this. Just
they'll cover every aspect. That's the beautiful way. And if I could tell you one thing, it might sound strange to you because people sometimes they believe it's not true. Basically, our traditional madrasa system used to have the same practice. The actual madrasa system, and if you read the history, they had the same system. You're talking about water today, so you talk about its physical side, you talk about the biological way, you talk about the scientific thing, you talk about the social side, how do we conserve it, all the aspects of it.
That's
so
amazing.
Basically, this is how you open the perspectives of people. You start giving them a total new way through which they could think and learn from life, and which is very, very important. And I studied in London School of Economics, and over there we were supposed to write more than 20 perspectives for every case study or an assessment that we were given. We had to use 20 perspectives. So it's again the same example that I started off with. 2 plus 2 is 4, but 5 minus 1 is also 4.
So it's also 4. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1
is also 4.
4.
So that's the way you start training in the kid's mind that, it's not just, nothing is absolute in the world. You've got to think from different perspectives. And the more you open up their perspectives, the more are the chances that you develop a globally recognized, globally workable, acceptable workforce or citizenship, which I think is the beauty of one of the salient features of SNC.
You're raising everyone's hopes, I'm sure, with everything that you're describing.
And my hopes
about
are actually super high, honestly. I'm very excited about it because when I read the whole document, I literally, and this is genuine, my true feelings I'm sharing with you. I thought that if we've implemented these things, I would think more than 70% of the problems of our education system, specifically related to the learning of a child, would be overcome. We will complete that. But the implementation is the most critical and most crucial thing that we've got to think. It is just not giving them the themes. It is the way you train the teachers, because ultimately it is that teacher in the classroom. It's not going to be the Prime Minister or the government or people who made the SNC themes. It's going to be the teacher in the classroom.
Absolutely.
So a lot of focus needs to be given on the way we teach our kids and the way we're training them. That is extremely important.
And on that note, I think we're going to end our session here. I do want to say though that this has been a very pleasant session, more of a conversation actually.
I enjoyed
it was
that,
very enjoyable for me. I hope it was enjoyable for you. And
Absolutely, I enjoyed it.
Hope it was enjoyable for our audience as well.
And you're a very good host.
Thank you so much. So we're going to end it over here, folks. We are going to have another session with another member of our training team tomorrow at 2:30. So make sure you all tune in for that. Until then, have a good day.